Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I am filming. I don't know if it's actually gonna be the last of the reviews that I filmed over the past 2 weeks that you will see, but I am filming the last of the reviews of the books that have been on my TBR card since June. I cannot believe that I actually managed to film reviews for all of those books. But anyway, the review I am talking about is for An Incarnation of Shadow and Light by S.A. Christensen. This is a self-pub new adult fantasy story that was sent to me by the author in return for an honest review, which is what I am doing right now, although I still need to do the review on Goodreads and on not Story Shelf, what's it called? Storygraph. Still haven't done that, but yeah, I will do that once I'm done filming here. So, what is this book about? As always, I will start with a little summary. I will go into my negative thoughts. I will then end with my more positive thoughts. So, what is this book about? As I said, this is new adult fantasy. However, new adult, like, I don't know if new adult is the right term, because new adult, the expectation it wakes a lot of times is that new adult books are quite spicy, because that's what they usually are. However, this is not spicy whatsoever. There was not a single sex scene in this, if I remember correctly. I finished this last month, or the month before that. Maybe I finished it in October. Could be. I don't remember. But if you know me at all, you know that, you know, my memory is like this. It's pea-sized. So I don't think there were any spicy scenes in here. However, what this is, when it's described as new adult, and the author herself also described this as new adult, is that this is one of those fantasy stories that very much straddle the line between YA and adult, where a lot of the characters are, you know, a little bit older. They are in their early 20s. They aren't quite teen characters anymore. However, in writing style and in themes, a lot of it is still quite YA, while also already going a bit more into darker themes and into being a bit more brutal. However, I did not find this book all that violent overall. So it's a new adult fantasy. It's kind of this in-between between adult and YA fantasy. And in this world you have, well, the setting is multiple different countries, but the main country that this book is set in is, what was it called? Something with Verciel. Verciel? Fantasy pronunciations, am I right? But it's the country of Verciel, and in this kingdom, people who have magic are very revered. They are called the Incarnate, and usually there are two incarnates. There's the Incarnate Moon and there's the Incarnate Sun. When the current rulers of Verciel are assassinated, the current Incarnate Sun and the current Incarnate Moon are set to become the new king and queen of the country. However, on the day of their coronation, an unexpected visitor arrives to challenge them to their throne. He is in fact the banished prince from a neighboring country, from an enemy country, and he has been gone for years. He now has reappeared, and he is claiming to also be an incarnate moon, I believe. Yeah, an incarnate moon. And so this story kind of follows those three characters as well as one other character in their power struggle. And that's my, once again, very bad summary of this book. So now on to my thoughts on this book, my negative thoughts, my positive thoughts. My more negative thoughts on this book is that if you are a fantasy reader who has read a lot of fantasy already, while I think you can enjoy this book, I don't think you will necessarily find that much, I would say, I don't want to say new in the story, but in terms of the plot and in terms of its structure, it very much falls into tried and true things, which is good. You know, not every book needs to be the newest thing ever. However, if you're someone who reads a lot of fantasy, sometimes it can get a bit boring. I do think that the characters are still really interesting in this book, so I still think this book is a book you can pick up, but I don't think it's a book that has, you know, all-time favorite potential. However, what I do really enjoyed about this book is that I think this would be the perfect book for someone who is just starting to get into fantasy, because the plot is very contained. You have a few multiple countries, so you do have different elements that come together. It does have complexity, but it's not too complex to the point where if you're a new fantasy reader, you will just, you know, lose sight of what is actually happening. So I think it's kind of a positive and a negative what this book is. I think it's one of those books where for some readers it might be a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but a little bit, you know, well known in terms of its tropes and in terms of its story. On the other hand, if you're a new fantasy reader, I think that's exactly what makes this ideal and an ideal book to start, because there's a few characters, there's a few settings, there's a pretty straightforward plot and a pretty straightforward goal at the end, which is power. You know, all the characters basically just want power in this book. Otherwise, things I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the world building. While it wasn't too complicated, it was the type of fantasy world building that I have started really enjoying once again, where it's not, you know, an over-reliance on being overly scientific, but it's just magical. It's a rather soft magic system. I prefer soft magic systems a lot of the times over the hard magic systems, so it was right up my alley in that case. I loved the casual diversity of the world. You had a bunch of different characters with very different skin colors, with different sexualities, and the way that diversity was included was just very natural, very casual. I really enjoyed that. I just love to see fantasy. Like, you all know that my favorite types of fantasy are fantasies where, you know, the world building has a very big focus on societal stuff. This is not necessarily that type of story, but this story also shows that even if you don't have a focus on, you know, different cultures and different societies and different societal concepts, you can still, in a very natural and very casual way, include diversity, and that diversity is never ever wrong. So I really enjoyed that part of the book. Aside from that, I also enjoyed the characters. I especially enjoyed the main villain. I found her to be a really interesting character and also a very tragic character. So really enjoyed that part of the story. The plot, as I said, it's pretty straightforward. I wouldn't say it's anything out of this world. I enjoyed it, but the plot wasn't necessarily what carried this book for me. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it on my thoughts on an incarnation of Shadow and Light. I'm not exactly sure if this is the first book in a series or not. Like, on Goodreads, it's not marked as a series. However, the ending of this book was quite open. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure which way this is gonna go. And yeah, if you're interested in picking up this book, tell me in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where I read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman or genderqueer person per month, will be left linked down below, so go and check those out. And I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!